All right. Welcome back to Living in Infinity, episode 20. Today we're going to talk all about running. We both have recently got into it pretty seriously, and yeah, we're just going to talk about our experiences with it so far. So I believe the first question we're going to dive into is how long we've both been consistently running and what got us into it. So, Alec, you want to take the first swing at that?
Yeah. Actually, why don't you start? Because I'm more of a recent runner. So I know you've been doing it kind of consistently for a while now. So like what got you into it initially? Okay.
So at the time I'd been living in Montana for probably a year, and I was out one day in the Bob Marshall Wilderness with a buddy. Um, and our goal for that day, it was just going to be like a 9 mile hike up to the top of Rocky Mountain and back. Um, so, we took off early. Uh, I was wearing pants, boots, all kinds of layers, had a full backpack on, and so did he. And so we kind of make our way up this mountain and we get turned around, and on our way down, we were just going to call it quits because we couldn't figure out how to get to the top. And on our way down, we encountered this group, three people. They were wearing, short running shorts, sneakers, had their little running vests on, and they were just hoofing it up this mountain. And so we kind of get to talking, and then when they let us join them, and yeah, they just cruise up this mountain, no big deal. And we got up to the top too with them, and we were uh, on the way down. I mean, it's actually pretty crazy. So we're coming off the summit, we're just below it, and uh, the kind of head guy, uh, he suggests we all kind of like zigzag apart. So then, in case of if a rock gets loose and starts tumbling down from somebody up top, it won't wipe us all out. Well, like as soon as he says that, and as soon as we do it, sure enough, I mean, it sounded like a gunshot. I guess it was just like water pressure built up in the rock or something. But this lady, she steps on the rock and it explodes, and we all like go scattering, and kind of like a rock the size of a bowling ball just went like ripping past my knee. I mean, missed it about like half a foot maybe. Um,
Damn.
yeah, so it was pretty intense, and so we get through that. Then we get to this like probably like 1,000 foot section of just like this loose gravel rock called scree. Um, and you can almost ski down it on your feet. So then, we go do that. It was just a blast. And I mean, the whole thing was just awesome. But that was the first time I encountered the sport of like mountain running. I mean, ultra running is, I guess, ultimately what it's considered. But yeah, it was this whole new thing, go instead of all this shit around the mountains. You just go light and go hop around and run. And so, yeah, after that, got into it. That was kind of that whole next year was kind of my first big year of running. And um, then I went on deployment, tried to keep running there, but yeah, just fell out of it for probably the next year. And now for the past 2 years, I'd say I've been running pretty consistently, especially this year. This year was my biggest year by far. Ran, yeah, it was just a good year.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that answers the question.
What is it about it that you like it? Because I think a natural reaction for a majority of people is that most people just hate running in general. Like they can't imagine ever running for fun. Like anytime you tell somebody that's like, oh, you have to like I talk about my training or whatever to someone that's not like into running, they don't get it. It doesn't click in their head. Like what aspect of it do you like, or do you even enjoy it at all? Or is it just like the physical fitness aspect, or like do you actually enjoy the act of running itself?
Yeah. Um, I have, I've, I enjoy it more the more I do it. At first, I probably didn't like it all that much. But now, um, yeah, it's, I wouldn't say I have like a burning desire, like it makes me jump for joy anytime I'm going to go run, but that's just a solid part of my day. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy running because another question we're going to get to on your list was like, what are the mental challenges you face with running? And I kind of took it as like, what do you do to run when you don't want to run? And it's just not often that I don't want to run. Um,
Mhm.
it's more of a physical thing. Like, oh God, I probably shouldn't run today. More than it ever is a mental thing of like not wanting to. Um, so yeah, I enjoy it. Why I enjoy it. One thing would be, just the new terrain, new territory, new places you get to go on a run. I love like whether it's just here in, where I live here in Newburgh, like running around a new neighborhood or running around town, just seeing kind of different parts that I hadn't seen before. Um, and then yeah, same thing on the trails here. Like the terrain here in the Midwest, it's never like super surprising or awe inspiring, but it's still fun to just go see kind of hidden holes of cool nature spots that, aren't really, easily apparent when you're just driving around here in Evansville and whatnot. So I enjoyed
Mm.
that. Then obviously Montana and out west, it's just like a whole different ball game. I mean, every valley you run down isn't insanely beautiful. Every mountain you get to go up is awesome and whatnot. So it's just like heightened out there. Another reason I like running, just for the quiet, kind of escape the phone, the whatever. Um, to just get some time to yourself. And then I've also really come to enjoy the physical aspect of it of like pushing yourself. Um,
Mhm.
kind of getting back in this mindset of like, um, when you were like a teenager and you went to the gym, just started going to the gym, it was all like you were pumped. You were there to throw around some weight and be tough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I've, and as I began to get into running, because it is so hard, you're more just like surviving the run. But here lately, it's more like I've had, I began to run with the intent of like pushing it,
Mm.
just seeing what I can do. And I've enjoyed that. Cause now I just read books and write. And so the chance to like go almost be a kid again is fun.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I got into it just for like, I enjoy the physical challenge of it. I mean, we grew up playing, both of us grew up playing sports. Like we're used to kind of always staying active and um, somewhat enjoy the aspect of like physical fitness and training and stuff. So I've been lifting consistently for probably the past 2, 3 years now. And I've been running on and off for the past couple of years, but never really super got into it. I just kind of did it casually. Um, and I've never like taken the opportunity to like enter a race and like actually do a full training program and everything, like really take it seriously. It was just something I did on and off for a while. But a couple months ago, I just had like this random inspiration. Like I want to do a marathon. Like a lot of some of the YouTubers that I watch, they got super into fitness. And one of them recently did like the New York City Marathon, and watching videos like that just kind of gets me fired up and makes me want to do it because like I don't know, the idea of that physical challenge just sounds like super appealing to me. And so I signed up for my first marathon, which is next year, in like late April. And I've never done any kind of running race before. I mean, me and you did that one random 5K once, but like it's not like something we have to train for. Like we can go do a 5K whenever. But this was the idea of signing up for a marathon was like scary, but also like super exciting just because it's gonna be tough. I mean, I'm gonna be training for 20 weeks, so which is a kind of a long training program, I think, but I've never done the furthest I've ever ran. at a single time is probably like 7 miles. So a marathon is like something that I've never really gotten close to. But yeah, so I'm just started training, been running super consistently now for the past few weeks, but I think the biggest part of that I enjoy about it is the terrain is fun. Like I live in St. Louis now, so going to like different parks and stuff and running has been cool. But I think the big thing for me is just like seeing and feeling the progress on a weekly basis. Like maybe your first week of training, you do 3 miles and it's a bit of a struggle, and then running like right now I'm running 4 days a week, and so literally within a span of like 2 weeks, running 3 miles now feels way different than it did, 2 weeks ago. Just your body, it's crazy like how fast your body does adapt when you're doing it really consistently. Um, so yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just like that physical challenge. And I do enjoy running itself, but I think it's more so like the feeling afterwards. Like you just feel very accomplished, you feel good, endorphins are going, like it's a very, very satisfying feeling. And it's good. It feels good enough to where you want to, like, you're willing to go through that pain of running to do it again the next day over and over. Um, so yeah, I think the that's the main thing for me. And so, yeah, that marathon is late April, like I said. So we'll see how the training ends up going. I think some of the questions will kind of tie into this. Like one thing I wanted to ask you, since you're more seasoned runner, like how do you make sure you're not overtraining yourself? Because I think whenever I'm either working out or running, like my biggest thing is I want to really push it. Like I want to push myself as hard as I can. But when you're training for something like a marathon and you have 20 weeks to train, like you can't go out and kill yourself on every single run. It's just not sustainable. So how do you go about balancing that line between like making sure you're pushing yourself to some extent, but doing it in like a smart way to where you're not overworking yourself or getting injured?
Yeah, there's two obvious signs that I look for. Um, like, you may have noticed my Strava, I think it was on Saturday, it was the 8-mile run that turned into a 5-mile hike. Um,
Yeah.
so if I ever go out and I don't, mentally wake up or physically wake up after like that 2-3 mile range, then I know it's time for just a, a down week. Typically, is what I'll do. Um, or if I notice like an injury and it doesn't loosen up during the run, then I'll be like, okay, so let's take some time off. Because I think like there's something with my foot, my right foot. The arch will get like worn down or something. Um, but typically I can still run when it's flared up because like 2 miles in, it'll just whatever loosen up or something. Um,
Yeah.
but like in addition to just being like kind of gassed for that effort on Saturday, then I had to cut short my ankle. My right ankle just felt weak and it never got strong during the run. So yeah, I just kind of, yeah, both those things just made me call it. Let's see. But let's say I'm healthy and it's a normal week of training. How do I kind of find the line? Um, I just, I'll kind of go out always on a run just with the intention of it being a solid run. Um, I don't really ever like go start a run with the idea that I'm going to push really, really hard. Uh, with the intent, with the little nugget in my brain, knowing that at some point, likely a couple times throughout that week, things are going to feel extra good. And then I'll just
Yeah.
hammer it when that happens. But if I'm not feeling too good, I might push it a touch to keep the pace up. Um, but because I am running, I do kind of value volume over speed at this point. I just kind of take the ebbs and flows as they come. So
Mhm.
when I'm feeling a little slow, I'm a little slow. I don't really worry about it just too much. That may change a little bit. I kind of am shifting my goals a little bit to be a little more focused on speed. Like I'd like to, I kind of want to build volume while I build speed. And because I am so early on in the process of like building endurance, like I kind of view my running journey as like this 20, 30 year thing. And because I'm so
Mhm.
early on, um, I think I have the room to do both at the same time. Um, so like this year, I might, like a goal of mine would be a sub 20-minute 5K, which I've done like a whatever. I've done that once before. Um, but that was years ago. And so to do that again is on the list. And so, yeah, that may change a little bit, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Are you do you have any races you're signed up for right now that you're training for? Or is it just like you're staying in shape at the moment?
Um, no, I don't have anything on the calendar as of yet. Um, I think what I'll probably do is because I'll start. So it's a little hard for me. Just because from like April to November I caddy, and with that I'm doing like 4 to 6 hours a day of walking, jogging, running. Um, you know, 3 to 5 times a week. So I don't really I can't really train during those months, but that's kind of
Mhm.
when all the races are. um, so I think for now, I'm going to just plan on like a big solo effort around March. Um, and I'll probably also try and knock out that sub 20-minute 5K by April as well. So
Mhm.
those are the only things I have on my calendar. And they're on there
Yeah,
loosely. Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, the St. Louis Marathon, that's late April. If you wanted to get that into, that'd be a lot of fun. But
Yeah. Yeah. I probably
yeah,
should sign up for it because I could do my own solo thing in like March and then be good to go for that.
mhm,
So yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. My training right now, it's like I mentioned, 4 days a week, and I'm trying to learn the balance between pushing myself and just getting into volume. Because I'm following like a 20-week training program that I kind of found online, and what it kind of has me doing right now is so like this week, for example, I've got it right here. Uh, this is it's like the first month is like base building, like just getting that base endurance, and getting your body used to running, 4 days a week or whatever. So like this week, it's a mixture of like easy runs, and by easy, it's like just like a casual pace, whatever that is for you. And then a fast run and then a long run. And so like right now, I have 2 runs this week are like 3 miles at like an easy pace, and then one is 2 mi my run yesterday was 2 miles at like a faster pace, like around a minute faster than what you would normally run for like your easy runs. And then every Saturday is like my long run. And so this week it's only 4 miles, and I think it goes up by 1 mile every week, um, for this month, and then it kind of drops back down, then everything increases a little bit, and you just kind of repeat that process, and gradually your runs throughout the week get a little bit longer, your longer runs on the weekend get a little bit longer, and I think the peak of the training, which is around month 3 or 4 or something, my long runs will be I wanna say the longest one I have to do is maybe 16, 17 miles, maybe 18. I'm not sure, but that'll be more towards, like, March. Um, so, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I think right now, like, running 3, 4 miles, I did last weekend, I did 5 miles, like, it's not super, super tough for me, so I'm fine right now, but I'm really curious to see like how my body responds, like how well I can pace myself once I'm doing like, 7, 8, 9 mile runs and like trying not to like push myself too hard during the week. Cause there's a time like 2 years ago that I decided to do a half marathon and I would like basically just go out 3, 4 times a week and just like kill myself on every run. And obviously not sustainable. Like I messed up my leg and ended up having to like not do the race because like I couldn't get over that. Like I took like a week or two off and then I started running again and it just came right back. Um, so I'm trying to be a lot smarter with this, and like actually follow a program, stick to it, not try and push myself too hard. But I think the biggest thing that I have noticed is just like, and I assume this is what you would relate to this as well in like really long runs. I think the mental battle is way harder than like the physical battle. Like I think your mind is going to start telling you that you're tired before your body does, and you're not actually tired. Like you're fine. You can keep going, but you have to like get over that mental block. And so what I wanted to ask is like, do you have any like strategies or stuff that things that you do whenever your brain starts telling you that? Or is it more of just like, block it out, keep running, focus on the music, or like what exactly are you doing to kind of get over that?
Um, I don't really freak out about it too much. I just kind of put it in perspective. Like you're out there putting out a lot of physical exertion, you're going to get tired. That's not weird. It'd be weird if you didn't get tired. So I just kind of take it in stride. Um,
Mhm.
and I'll, slow her down for a little bit. Um, but I think what you'll find, as you run more, or at least this has been the case with me, the bounce backs, they come. And also, I think that's an advantage of liking running because even when it's not going great, you're still happy to be there.
Mhm.
Um, like this doesn't really tie in, but maybe it does. I think it was Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan. They were talking about David Goggins and how he kind of like runs out of hate. And
Mhm.
Lex was just wondering if that was as effective as somebody who's just like a Courtney DeWalter. I don't know if you know who she is, but she literally just is
Mhm.
smiling all the fucking time when she's out there running like
Mhm.
200 miles or whatever. Like it's just always
Yeah.
happy. And so he was just wondering like what's the difference. And I think that's where it comes in. Uh is when your mind is like kind of over it, or like not over it, but when you start to get tired, but you're still at least like just kind of chilling. I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, an advantage for sure.
Mhm. Like my last week, my 5 mile run, it was probably mile 2 or 3 that I really started to feel it. And I was like, oh, it's going to be tougher than I thought. Um, like your mind starts telling you these things that like makes it seem way harder than it actually is. And then what I found through that run is like, it's very, very temporary. Like I think maybe it was like a half mile of that. And then that last, 1.5 miles, my last mile was my fastest out of all of like I felt the best on that last one.
Yeah.
Mile 3 is like, "Oh, this sucks, like, this is gonna be I'm gonna have to grind out these last 2 miles," and then by the time mile 5 rolled around, like or finishing like, I just finished mile 4, I just had this second burst basically, and, like, that was my fastest, and so I think you have to just, like, recognize, like, "Oh, this is gonna be temporary, it's gonna pass," um, 'cause, at least from my experience in that one, like, it didn't last very long, and I would imagine it's probably the same. You probably go through multiple phases of that when you're running, like, say, 10 miles. Like, maybe your body kinda goes through these ups and downs of like, "Oh, this sucks," and like, "Oh, I feel great again." Probably
Yeah.
happens multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like to kind of go back to our one of our earlier questions, when you don't get that bounce back, that's that's when, at least to me, that's when like, all right, let's tone her down. The
Yeah.
training. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
But no, I had a run. That was probably like a month ago, but it was a 5 mile run. Just so you know, the first 3 miles they were like good pace, but they felt clunky. My joints kind of hurt. Like my muscles weren't taking the impact. It was just my bones. and
Yeah.
but this guy kind of kept. He came by me and he was just cruising, and I was like, damn, like I wish I was like him. So I kind
Mhm.
of mulled on that for like another half mile, and then all of a sudden, dude, the jets kicked in, and I was just gone.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, when that happens, it's fun.
Mhm. One thing that I'm not, which I'm curious to see how this works out too. Like I'm trying not to, it's starting to get a lot colder out, obviously. So I'm trying, like some of my runs have been on the treadmill versus outside. And I think, I don't know if like running on the treadmill a lot is bad, but in my mind, I feel like it kind of is. Like, especially, I mean, when you're doing an actual race, it's not on a treadmill, obviously. Like you're outside in the elements, there's elevation. You have to pay attention to the road and where you're going. And it's just very different than like being on a treadmill and zoning out. Um, so I'm curious, like, how it's going to work. Like, if majority of my training is going to be in the winter cold months, and then by the time the race comes around, it's going to be starting to warm up a little bit more. Um, so I'm curious how that's going to translate. Like, I mean, do you think it's easier to run in the cold versus the spring? Like, I know summer, obviously, it's hot, it's more taxing on your body, but is it good? Is it easier on your endurance to like be running in the cold, or is it kind of the opposite because your muscles and joints are going to be not as warm?
Um, from like 50 to 40 degrees. So 60 to 40 degrees is prime. Um,
Yeah.
that's I think when it's the easiest to run. Below that, um, I would still say get out. Um, you can get out. Like the guy I ran with in Montana was a psycho, and I was young and stupid. I guess to
Mhm.
some degree I'm still young and stupid, but he that's what we did. We ran outside in Montana winter. So it would be like, I think our coldest day was probably 15 degrees at 4 in the morning, out there trail running. Like we just did it. Um, so you can do it. I would not let the cold stop you. Although I would also understand why you want to go to the treadmill. Um,
Yeah.
the treadmill, I know it's like 13% harder to run on the treadmill physically. There's something about the cushion, I think, of the track and the absorption.
Harder?
It is, yes, I mean, I'll look it up real quick, but I'm like 100% certain it is physically harder to run on the treadmill. Um,
Interesting.
but I would say it's mentally easier, uh, at least to some extent. So I would
Mhm.
say that's where the disadvantage comes in, is because you can just zone out. Where when you're outside, it's like you can see where you have to go, and sometimes if you're not used to that, that's gonna mess with you a little bit.
Yeah, I've found it to be the opposite on the mental aspect. Like when I'm on a treadmill and I have nothing to look at but the wall in front of me and the screen, and that's all I see for an hour straight. Like that just all I can think about is like I'm running. This is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It makes it harder for me to like zone out and distract myself. Whereas if I'm outside, I have things to look at, like things that I have to pay attention to where I'm going. That I have found to be easier um, to distract myself from like the uncomfortableness of running. But I didn't know that it was like actually physically harder running on a treadmill. I
y-
guess that probably doesn't take into account like slope though. Like that's probably just comparing like flat ground versus flat treadmill.
yeah,
Because most of any like parks you run in or trails you run, there's gonna be hills up and down. So like that's a lot more taxing on your muscles and joints and stuff.
yeah. Um, for sure. So do you not like add incline on your runs on the treadmill?
I haven't, no. I wonder if there's I would assume there's probably settings on there where you could have it just automatically do a mix of flat and incline, but I haven't done any just like straight incline runs, which I guess could probably be beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, I did one the other day. It's like my first treadmill run in a long time, and I did. It was yeah. There were like four sections of incremental inclines or whatever, and then it hit flat, and then you go back up. And I really enjoyed it, and I think it's like I think that's an advantage of the treadmill is that you can get those kind of calculated inclines, like steady uphill efforts in. I just think that's probably really good for your muscles to do that. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah. You just gotta hit like whatever. It's like I don't know. I did like the cross country thing, but it's probably specific to that treadmill. So
Yeah. Another thing that bothers me too about the treadmill running is my watch is not accurate on the
mhm.
treadmill. Like you can use your Apple Watch to track indoor runs, and I think the way it works is like it knows all of your running data from your outdoor runs, and so it kind of learns the motions and it's able to calculate how fast you're running on a treadmill just by like the motion of your arms and your heart rate and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
that's crazy.
yeah, right. It's very crazy, but I don't think it's not super accurate. Like there's usually like a 30 to 60-second um error, like range of error to where it's not accurate. So that part bothers me because I like to track everything on my watch just so I have like all my health data there. Um, and a lot of times it's been like 30, 60 seconds off. But I think what I'll probably try and do is I want to do all or for as long as I can. We'll see how cold it gets this winter, but I want to make sure I do definitely do all my long runs outdoors, because those are going to be like simulating race day, where you're out there for a long time. You're going to have incline, decline, um, road stuff you have to pay attention to. So I'm going to try to make sure that at least all of my long runs are outside. And then during the week, it might just be a mixture of indoors and out based on how I'm feeling. But also the idea of like running 10 plus miles on a treadmill just sounds so boring to me. Like I don't, I would definitely want to be outside for those super long runs.
Yeah, I on deployment because our base was super tiny, and sometimes I do long runs on treadmills, and I throw on a podcast. It's not too bad. Um, but yeah, wait, it's way better to be outside for those things.
Yeah. Since you said that running for you is like a 20 to 30 year endeavor, do you have any like dream races that you really want to sign up for at some point, whether it's like a couple years from now or like several years?
Yeah. Um, the more immediate one. So I did this race back in 19, 18. But I did the kind of medium distance, I think it was the 28K. So it's called the Rut.
Mhm.
Takes place in Big Sky, Montana, and out in yeah, the resort there. So I would love to go back for the 50K. So I think the total number is on that. It's like 50K and 10,000 feet of elevation gain. So it's like kind of
That's
a
like
quick and
31 miles or something, right?
yeah, I think it's like 28 maybe. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and then so it's like a short ultra. In terms of ultra running, it's short, but it's just super punchy, like going up and down, up and down, up and down, pretty much all day long. Um, so I want to go back and do that one. Um, and that would be something I could run here within I mean, I could probably slowly run it next year, but give me 2, 3 years and I could probably go put a decent effort in at it. long term, Hard Rock 100 uh, is on my list. Just looks like an absolute ass kicker. But the course, I mean, it's in the San Juan Mountains in Colorado, and it looks just unbelievably gorgeous. And I think just for like the whole day and a half, 2 days, I'd be doing nothing but going up and down mountains, and that sounds awesome. And then the other one, which is like, there's two races that are I kind of have scoped out for my 40s, just because that's how long it'll take for me to build up the endurance probably for them. But they're two 200 milers. So the Moab 240, which
Yeah.
is kind of what made like Courtney Dauwalter famous, and uh, Cameron Haynes. It was a big deal when he ran it and stuff. So that's on the list. Just runs through like all throughout the desert in Utah. Just looks super gorgeous. And then the other one is it's called Tour de Jean. I think I'm pronouncing that right, in Italy. And it's 220 miles throughout the Italian Alps. Yeah. I mean, it's just like,
It's crazy.
well, I said in the 40s or my 40s, I mean, because this is going to take
Yeah.
forever to build that up. But yeah, so yeah, I think people like, I was reading one guy's story about it. He's like, he got to the top of the last climb, and he just started crying because he's like, how good he was and whatever.
Yeah.
So, but those are races. I don't know if you like ever listen to content about them, but I mean, people like, because you're up for so long, you start hallucinating stuff, and I mean, it's just like a whole different um, experience. So we'll see, yeah, if I ever do or not. But it's kind of where I will, that's kind of where my running is aimed.
So do you prefer the more mountain running versus just like traditional flat courses? Like you want to be going up and down, like I assume on a lot of these mountain runs, you're not actually running at like a running pace for a lot of it because you're going up a steep hill or down. It's not something you can just like speed through. Is that right?
Yeah. So, like the elite guys, my understanding, they'll still go put in pretty quick paces. Like, um, my understanding is they'll run like, God, I mean, it might be like 8-minute miles, 7-minute miles. And then there'd be some 6-minute miles thrown in, maybe. Anyway, yeah, like when you're going up a mountain, summiting, like it's gonna take you. You're just gonna go slow as shit.
Yeah.
But then on the way down, theoretically, you're gonna kind of bomb, go fast, and then it all averages out. Uh, but
So you
anyway,
prefer
yeah,
that style more?
yeah. But at the same time, I would still like to become a decent road runner because they kind of go hand in hand. Like, the better you are at road running, the better you're going to be in the mountains.
Yeah.
Um, this seems to be my understanding of it. So, and I still like the idea of just going to your local 5K and seeing how fast you can go. I mean, that sounds fun. I think I'm going to do a little bit more of that this year. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely my running is like the reason I train, the reason I run is just to go have these big days in the mountains and so.
Uh, yeah. I think that does sound appealing to me, like the mountain running. I think for at least the foreseeable future, I'm just gonna stick with more road running. I enjoy that, and I don't want to just go straight from like not really being a consistent runner at all straight into like, mountain running. But I think like for now, I just want to do more traditional marathons, half marathons, stuff like that. Um, but I don't. Since I'm so new to running, I don't have a whole lot of like dream races that I want to do. But it's like it's always been on my bucket list to do an Ironman. Like I would love to. I plan on doing that someday. Once I'm like pretty seasoned running, because then obviously that throws in swimming and biking that you have to train for as well. Um, so that sounds super exciting. I definitely want to do that at some point. And then uh, after watching all those New York City marathon videos, I would love to do that. It looks like, I mean, I love New York City as a city itself, and from what I've gathered from all these videos, like, well, for one, like over 50,000 people enter this race, which is like insane given the requirements to enter this race. Like, it's not one of those races anyone can sign up for and do, which I thought it was. It's not. Like, just if you want to qualify and get like automatic entry just based on qualifying time, you have to run. It was, I think it's 2 hours and 56 minutes or something. It's based on your age.
Mm.
But it basically tried, it was like a 6 minute, something second average pace for a marathon. If you do that, automatic qualification, um, which is absurd. Like,
Yeah.
not something I would be able to do within the next few years. But you can also do, they have like the, it's called like the 9+1 qualifying program. And so basically, they have a bunch of qualifying races that you can do. And the 9+1 program is where you have to do 9 qualifying events in the span of a year. And then the plus one is like a volunteer event that you would do. It's also qualifying. So basically 10 things, 10 events you have to do within the span of a year to qualify for the marathon, which that's also crazy. Like, 9 full blown races throughout the course of a year just to
Yeah.
qualify for one marathon. And like all the traveling you'd have to do for that would be a lot of money, a lot of training, a lot of work. Um, like
Yep.
that's very close to doing like a whole race every single month. Like that's also just absurd. Um, and then the easiest way to get in is their like charity thing. So they have like certain charities that they support, and the minimum donation is it's like $2,500. And so if you donate whatever the minimum is that year, you get entry into the race. That's probably what I'd have to end up doing, but still like $2,500 to just to get
Run.
into the
Yeah.
race is crazy. Then you have to go to New York City, stay there, do the whole thing. Like it's a big thing. And the fact that 50,000 plus people enter this, uh, is mind blowing. And from all the videos that I've seen, like the energy in the city just looks unreal. Like the whole city kind of comes together. Everyone's watching it that day. Like it's downtown New York City. All the streets are lined. It goes through each borough throughout the city. Like it just looks so much fun and so much energy. Um, like you literally have the entire city like watching these people do the race. So that's for sure on my list. That's probably something I have to do in like 2025, I would imagine, because the one next year is in March or April, which I will not be in marathon shape at that point. Um, so I'll just do it the next year probably. But that race sounds super fun. So those are the main two that I would like to do. Um, but Ironman, that's going to be likely a few years from now, at least. Um, but
Have you
I'm sure.
swam like lately? Like, have you ever gone into a lane and swam?
No.
It's fucking hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the worst part, like, it's hard if you don't do it. And the
Yeah.
worst part is you'll have these grannies who do it, and they're just cruising by you, dude. They just gas you.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
I've, in my head, I've like always thought of myself as like a very good swimmer. Like I've always, like grew up in the lake, no life jacket. Like that's just what I'm used to. But I would imagine once I get in the lanes and like I'm training to swim, like it's just completely different. Like I'm sure it's going to kick my ass,
Well,
but
and I mean, it's like anything else. You do it for a month, you'll be probably, you'll be good.
yeah.
But it's just that first time you're like 4 laps in, you're gassed. You're
Yeah.
like, what is happening?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what would be the hardest part of that race. I mean, I think it's the swim, I want to say is like 2.2 miles or 2.1 miles or something, maybe two and a
Mm.
half. And then you bike for 110 and then do a marathon. So I don't, I don't know what part of that would be the hardest. Like all of that sounds crazy. I feel like
Yeah.
the biking would probably be the easiest.
Mhm.
And then doing the marathon would obviously suck because like you've already done so much. Like you've already swam multiple miles, biked 110 miles, and then you have to run 26 miles. Like it's
Mhm.
insane. But I would,
Yeah.
that's for sure on my list. I definitely want to do that. But
Yeah. No, that'd be an awesome project to undertake. And it'd be fun training because you get to mix it up all the time.
yeah,
Um, yeah. The open water swims though, I don't like open water. Uh,
why?
it's scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And all the
I don't
people
know.
swimming around you too. I feel like it would just be a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You gotta listen to
yes.
Rich Roll. I think he's a
Yeah.
big I don't know if he's like an Iron Man guy or I never really like I listen like he's got a big podcast and I never fully understood exactly what his niche was in terms of athletics, like all endurance stuff. But yeah, he does like they sound like extreme Ironmans. Like there'd be like a chain of islands, and you run across the first island, swim to the next, bike across the next. That was kind of the gist I got of the races he was doing.
Yeah.
Um, so he might be worth checking out for you because those sound awesome.
Uh, whenever you finish a race, which because I'm curious how I'm gonna react. Like you had this massive training block, you do the race, you do what you set out to do. How do you feel afterwards? Are you like, do you take time off? Like, or do you like, do you even feel motivation to like sign up for another race and get back into training? Or are you like, oh, I need just like a couple months off before I even consider doing something else again?
Um, I, so I've had two experiences where I would say the thing I did was like exceptionally hard. Um, to me. So the first one being the rut, and the second one being this last summer I took like did a weekend or a week long canoe trip. Um, they're different, but they're the same in the sense that they were both very hard. And after finishing them both, I had just so much motivation to go suffer more. Like I
Mm.
was hooked.
Yeah.
Like I finished the rut and then immediately just went stupidly. Like I should not have done this, but um, immediately just did like long run after long run after long run. I think like
Hmm.
going into the rut, I'd only ever run like 7 miles. And then the rut was 17 miles with all this elevation gain. Like it was just a
Yeah.
huge jump. Um, and then I just, yeah, did more than I think I did like a 13-mile day with a ton of gain. I think I did another 16-mile day. Um, so yeah, I was hooked in. And then after like the canoe trip, I was just like, yeah, let's go do more of this. This was awesome. Um, will that always be my response? I don't know. What will your response be? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I would imagine you're gonna be pretty jacked. It's
I think
race
so.
days are, and like I have all these kind of wishes to go do these not races, but like just adventures. And they're cool because you get to go explore a lot of cool terrain and stuff. But like the race day is, it's just electric. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
I kind of think, feel like that's how it's going to go for me. Like, yes, it's going to suck and be the hardest physical thing that I will have done up to this point. But I feel like as soon as I finish it, I'm going to be like, okay, what's next? Like, I want to
Mhm.
push myself even further, like either beat my time, do a longer race, whatever it is. But yeah, I think I'm going to be absolutely hooked after that first race.
Yeah. Which is so funny because I would have just assumed like when I was the last section of the rut was is very steep. Uh, and I was almost it was practically like crawling up the last climb. Like I just my legs
Mhm.
were fucked. Um, And, fast forward to like an hour after when I crossed the finish line, you're just so alive. And you're like, oh, yeah, that was great. But, an hour before you're crying on the side of a mountain, just is
Yeah.
so miserable. And then the same with the canoe trip. It was just, there were some low lows, but you just immediately forget all that. I mean, you don't forget it, but you just don't care. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care that it sucked. It was awesome.
Yeah. Do you think it's for your first big race, did you set any time goals or was it more like I just want to finish it in like a respectable time? Because I'm trying to like it's my first marathon. I've never ran anywhere close to that distance before, but like I like to set goals. And so, but I have no idea, like I have no reference of what I should set. And so I'm trying to figure out even like, is it even realistic for me to like run the whole thing without stopping to walk at any point? Or should I just throw that idea out the window, anticipate having to walk at some point and not really like try and set a time goal and more so just like do it and as fast as I personally can. And then I can use that as a reference going forward.
Yeah. Um, hmm. You, it just depends on how once you get further into this training, you'll get a better idea.
Yeah.
Um, like if you can't get through your long runs without walking for a bit or resting, then I wouldn't expect to be able to do that on race day.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, that shouldn't stop you from that shouldn't prevent you from having an idea of what your time should be. Like as you get these
Hmm.
long runs in, you'll get a feel for what your pace is
Yeah.
most likely going to be. You can be like, okay, if I run it this time, that'll be like an okay race. If I run it in this time, that'll be a bad race. And if I run it in this time, that'll be a good race. And then just see from
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be good to maybe set some sort of time goal once I'm a lot closer to training day and I have at least, I maybe put in a 15, 16 mile run so I can have some sort of like range of what I should look for. But I don't think, I mean, I think for me, this first race, as long as I'm going to be happy finishing it regardless. Regardless of if I run the whole thing or have to walk a couple times, whatever. Um, but after that first race, it's going to be like, okay, I want to set goals, like challenge myself to like beat my previous time or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's when the
It,
fun really begins because you have like physical, tangible goals, like specific numbers you want to beat that mean a lot, you know?
that's kind of why I want to get simultaneously work on my 5Ks while working for these longer runs because the mindsets are different. And like an elite ultra runner, like Zach Miller, for example, he's going to go and do an ultra run and be like, it's pedal to the metal the entire 100 miles.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas like I would go into a long race like that and be like, yeah, we're just hoping to finish. But I could, but uh, I want to go into be able to go into these long races and be like, yeah, I'm racing. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, uh, but yeah, I'm racing. But that mindset is not easy. Like, it doesn't come easily. Uh, I don't think it's something that needs to be practiced. And what I can do is go race the entirety of a 5K. Um, you
Mm.
know, so that's kind of why I want to do that. Um, yeah, because otherwise, I think I'll just spend my whole life signing up for these long runs, these long races, just with the mentality of like, yeah, if I finish, it'll be good. Which
Yeah.
I mean, it is good, but I also want to compete. I mean, just because it's fun. So
When you say compete, do you mean against the other racers there or just your own personal times?
probably just my own personal times. I'm probably never going to be
Yeah.
fast enough to go. I can
Yeah.
almost say that with certainty. I'm never going to be fast enough to go around out at the front of a race. But
Yeah.
I can still go run hard and nearly
Yeah.
pass out. So
Yeah. No, I think that's the right mindset. to have because there's always going to be people that are way faster than you. Always. In any single race, there's always people that are putting in 5:30s, like just something crazy.
Yeah.
I like,
I'm not a runner. Like, I know that.
yeah,
I just like it, and
yeah,
I like to compete. I don't play
yeah,
sports anymore. So, this
yeah,
is my space to do that.
yeah. That's how I think it'll be for me too. Like just competing against myself and like what I think is possible. Like just I want to push myself and see what I can do physically,
Yeah.
like, because I think, a few years ago, the idea of doing a marathon was like super scary. And now it's like, I'm very confident that I can do it and I respect like a reasonable time. But I want to find out, just how, like my first one, I really just want to find out like what can I push myself, like what kind of time can I really achieve for my first ever marathon. And then after that, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be just like completely hooked. And I just want to like beat my previous times every single time, like uh, try and do faster training. Because I think I enjoy, I like running long distances, but my natural inclination is always like, I want to see how fast I can go. Like whenever I start feeling tired, my gut and or my knee jerk instinct isn't like, oh, I need to slow down. It's like I need to push harder to get it over with quicker. Like that's always how I do it. So like I feel like on I feel like it's beneficial for like races. Well, I guess maybe not because you want to like kind of pace yourself and not kill yourself out the gate. But
It dep I think it depends. Like, if you listen to Zach Miller, um, there's no pacing. I
yeah,
That's the normal. I think that is what even the majority of the elite runners do is they, like, chill, and then they see where they're at, and then they push. But, like,
Mhm.
it is cool to listen to Zach because you realize, like, oh, you can go redline it for the whole thing. Like,
Yeah,
that can be done. And
yeah,
so that's interesting, and I wanna
yeah.
get better at that. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get into doing like ultras. Like just like, I don't know if I'll ever get into like pushing myself in the extent of like longer races. I think I'm just always gonna want to go faster because that's what I like. I like running fast. Like
Yeah.
even even on my training days where I'm supposed to go at like a slow, easy pace, that's hard for me. Like I don't it doesn't feel natural. Like I like to slow down and like run slower than what is like my normal pace, I guess, or like not push myself. Like that's it doesn't feel natural to me. So I'm having to like practice that so I don't, overwork myself as the weeks get or my training sessions get longer and longer. But we'll see how I feel like what happens after that first race. But I do kind of feel like I'm just gonna want to go faster as opposed to going longer.
Yeah. And I think what'll happen with your training, or with your running is, like, I suspect now you have you're running, like, your comfortable pace, um, but even that's probably too like, you're probably running slower than your comfortable pace for this
Hmm.
training, and
Yeah.
what'll happen is that as you train more, your body will be able to do all this training at your comfortable pace. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like,
Yeah, it does. Cause I think like if you tell me to go out and run 3 miles and I don't have a watch to look at of like what my pace is, like I just go based off what feels the most natural to me. I'm usually at like 8:30 ish within that
mhm,
range. That's my normal natural running pace. But like
mm,
when I do my slow runs, it's more like I try to stick within like 9:30 to 10 minute because like that's where my heart rate's not very high. It's slow. And even my fast runs, I'm like, or I say fast with quotes, like just faster than my easy pace. I'm still
right,
like around 9 minutes or so. But what feels the most natural to me, just based off of like I guess my height or whatever, I don't know, but around 8 to 8:30 is what feels like the most normal to me.
yeah. So that'll I've noticed how with my own running is just my kind of easy pace has caught up. Oh, not a,
Yeah.
I mean, it's starting to catch up with kind of like where I can just on any given day be like, all right, I'm just gonna take off running and not worry about it too
Mhm.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's like some days you get out of the truck and like our legs just don't go anywhere. So it's
Mhm.
yep, yeah,
Well, that was a bit of a different episode. I think it was kind of fun to switch things up, talk about more fitness stuff. We're kind of all over the place with topics on a weekly basis, but I think the longer we do this podcast, we'll eventually find like what our normal lane is and like what topics we stick with consistently. But for now, probably just like random hodgepodge on a weekly basis, but it's
yeah.
still a good time. Is there anything else you wanted to add in before we wrap it up?
No,
Cool. Well, then we will be back next week. Thanks everybody for watching.